Alrighty, sixth graders, so let's take a look at lesson 18. So for lesson 18, we're going to be looking at least common multiple and greatest common factor. So before we start talking about how to find those, we need to talk about what these things are. So the greatest common factor of two whole numbers that are not zero is the greatest whole number that is a factor of each number. So we'll talk a little bit about what factors are here in a minute. So whenever we see greatest common factor, we can think GCF. Okay, we can see either of those kind of interchangeably. And then least common multiple. So the least common multiple of two whole numbers is the smallest whole number that's greater than zero that is a multiple of both of the numbers. And we might see LCM to mean least common multiple. All right, now let's talk a little bit about how to find each of these. So let's look at example 1 and we'll talk about greatest common factor. So we need to find the greatest common factor of 12 and 18. We're going to do this by listing the factor pairs. So factors are two numbers that multiply together to make another number. And a factor pair, factors are numbers that multiply to make another number, and a factor pair are two numbers that multiply together to make that number. So if we write out the factor pairs for 12, we have 1 and 12, right, because 1 times 12 gives us 12. And 2 and 6, because 2 times 6 gives us 12. And 3 and 4, because 3 times 4 gives us 12. So those are all the factors of 12. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Now let's look at 18. We have 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Right, because 1 times 18 is 18, 2 times 9 is 18, and 3 times 6 is 18. And it says to circle all of the factors that appear on both lists. So we have 1, we have 2, 3, and 6. So 1, 2, 3, and 6 are all common factors of 12 and 18. But we need to find the greatest common factor. So we're going to look for the number that these two numbers have in common, the factor that these two numbers have in common, and we're going to put a triangle around the greatest one, the largest one. So it looks like that is going to be 6. So the GCF of 12 and 18 is 6. So their greatest common factor is 6. Now let's look at the least common multiple. So we're going to look at those same numbers again, 12 and 18, but we're going to find the least common multiple. So we're going to list out some multiples of each of these numbers. So it says to write out the first 10 multiples. We're not going to write out the first 10 because that is going to take a little while. If you want to write out the first 10, go ahead. So let's start with 12. So 12 times 1 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. 12 times 3 is 36. 12 times 4 is 48. 12 times 5 is 60. 12 times 6 is 72. And that's where we're going to stop. So let's go down to 18. So we have 18 times 1, which is 18. 18 times 2 is 36. 18 times 3 is 54. 18 times 4 is 72. 18 times 5 is 90. And 18 times 6 is 108. So we are going to circle the multiples that appear on both of the lists. Now, if we were to write out all 10 first 10 multiples of 12 and 18, we're going to have some more that are going to be in common. But since we only wrote out the first 6, we're only going to have a few of them. So we have 36 and 72 that we can see right now. Then we're going to decide which of these which of these multiples are the least. And that is going to be 36. So the LCM, or least common multiple, of 12 and 18 is 36. So let's take a look at, we'll look at maybe two of the greatest common factors in this first part. So let's look first at 30 and 50. So I'm going to make almost like a T-chart for each of these numbers, 30 and 50, to list out my factors. So I have 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Then I can go over to 50. 1 and 50, 2 and 25, 5 and 5. Oops, I missed one. Not 5 and 5. Sorry, 5 and 10. I was looking at 25. 5 and 10, not 5 and 25. So then we're going to look and see which factors these numbers have in common. So they both have 1, they both have 2, they both have 5, and they both have 10. But it looks like the greatest is going to be 10. So the greatest common factor of 30 and 50 is 10. Let's take a look at one more. Let's look at 30 and 45. So I'm going to get rid of this 50 just because I don't have quite enough space for that. And since we already did 30, we can just kind of leave that there. Let me put these back. There. That's okay. We can leave those there. So then we can look at 45. So 1 and 45, 3 and... Let me double check on that. Sorry. Hold, please. That's right, 15. That's what I thought it was. 3 and 15, and 5 and 9. So, let me rewrite this a little bit. 6. And take this out and fix that. So let's see what factors we have in common. 1, we have 3, we have 5 again, and we have 15. That tells us that our greatest common factor is 15. All right, so let's look at our least common multiples. So we're going to look at station 2. And we'll start with 9 and 12. So I'm going to make kind of a sideways T-chart. 9 and 12. And I'm going to list out my multiples. So 9 times 1, 9 times 2, 9 times 3, 9 times 4, 9 times 5, 9 times 6, and that's where I'm going to stop for now. And then 12. 12 times 1, 12 times 2, 12 times 3. Oh, I can stop right there because I see 36. Since that's our first common multiple, that means that it's going to be our least common multiple. So our least common multiple is 36. Let's look at one more. Let's look at, let me see what I gave you for your independent practice. We did 12 and 30. So let's look at 20 and 50. So I'm going to make another kind of sideways T-chart, 20 and 50. So 20 times 1, 20 times 2, 20 times 3, 20 times 4, 20 times 5, 20 times 6, and then we can keep going on later if we need to. And then 50 times 1, 50 times 2, 50 times 3. I'm going to stop there because I see 100. So our least common multiple is 100. So today in class, I let everybody know that we are going to stop there. I know that we have some other problems, but we're going to stop there. And tomorrow during class, we're going to talk about this a little bit more since we kind of have a review day. So with that, looking at your independent practice, we are going to talk more about some of these tomorrow. So I would recommend just working on 1 and 2 today, and then looking at 3 and 4 after we have a chance to discuss those tomorrow. If you want to kind of get a head start, for 3, we're looking at prime factorization. So as a reminder of what prime factorization is, I'll use the example of 30. We're going to break this number down into different factors until we have all prime factors. Remember, a prime number is a number who only has 2 factors, 1 and itself, like 3. We can break 10 down into 2 and 5. So the prime factorization of 30 would be 2 times 3 times 5. Okay. So like I said, these 3 and 4 we're going to talk a little bit more about tomorrow. So you can hold off on doing those if you're not super comfortable with it, just kind of trying it out on your own. So we'll talk more about it tomorrow, and we will talk more about kind of the rest of the parts of this lesson tomorrow as well. So I have a word for you today. Your secret word today is, I can get my pen back out. Your secret word today is brain. Alrighty, if you run into any problems or have any questions, please let me know. Please keep in mind that tomorrow is a review day, so make sure that you take a look at the review page that has, or the review pages that have been posted to Canvas. And if you notice any that you have some big questions about, kind of make note of them and let me know or ask me tomorrow, or you can set up a time with me or with Miss Sally to work through those before you take your test. Alrighty, have a fantastic day, and I'll see all y'all tomorrow.